Namaste, Jai Bharat. Every school teacher must have been teaching directly or indirectly the children of a peaceful world and coexistence of the multiple and plural. That's a normal case of things, a normal ways of things. Now, but there are some people who are also very powerful, who would wish not a peaceful coexisting world. They would want a world which is one that of turmoil, problems, etc. One such thing is the so-called deep state. We have seen that in Nepal there is a Gen Z, they pronounce it that manner, Gen Z problem in the sense Gen Z writing against the regime, whatever. Then we have seen a similar Gen Z in Bangladesh. Then some time back we saw a Gen Z in Sri Lanka. And of course this Gen Z methodology and techniques were applied to Bharat not just once, not just twice, but multiple times. Now who does this? People normally say it's all done by the deep state. Well, the deep state I think is a very shallow kind of phenomenon, because they spend their time, energy and a lot of money on thinking to or on the programs of destabilizing relatively peaceful and ongoing societies which make progresses for themselves, who are not a threat to others. Actually, you guys are a threat to the world and you don't deserve to exist. If I am asked to give my opinion, these people don't deserve to exist in this world. You just waste the natural resources and pollute the atmosphere divine, otherwise divine. Now what is this Gen Z? I don't know whose fantastic imagination is. There is a Generation Z, and the Generation Z is a category of people between 13 to 28. That's what I come across. This generation group of people, they become restless and they start revolting or reacting, and to the extent of revolting against whatever is the establishment around them. There used to be time during my very young days that revolt against the establishment, as the establishment is supposed to, etc., which was by and large led by the communist ideologies. But this time it's not communist ideologies. This is simply rebelling against the establishment, thinking that once the establishment is gone, they will have something they think as very spurious, actually, a kind of freedom which really does not exist. Now then, this implies everything, all kinds of freedom. Let's not go into the details. So this Gen Z, and this is pronounced in an American way, if I am right, the British calls it as Generation Z. That is Gen Z, not Gen Z. Now, people call it as Gen Z, and that's so people understand it mostly, not Gen Z, the Z category generation, between this age group, who are supposed to be very wise, very intelligent, very smart, very creative, and very everything. That's how the deep state people, the so-called deep shallow state people, project to them. They use NGOs and other agencies to do this. Very recently, a couple of things happened in Bharat, which I will just speak briefly. There was a movement in Maharashtra. Just because Maharashtra is a business capital of Bharat, they tried there, and nothing really came out in the press as a result. But there was an attempt, which was dissolved like salt in water. Then this Ladakh, Ladakh situation is very strange. Ladakh is a place where something, this kind of things do not happen. But the Ladakh, there was this Gen Z movement, which obviously was supported by the so-called shallow deep state. I feel uncomfortable to call this deep state because there's no depth in them. There's no depth. Whatever kinds of depth I don't find in them. They're very shallow kind of people who can't see beyond their noses, who would aspire for uh, reactions, immediate results, which is never long lasting. Perhaps they do not want lasting results. They simply want to create problems, and then others might make the problems to their advantage and things like that. Possibly these are very funny, intricate, and waste and useless. Though people die in this process, they have no regrets. They are supposed to be great philanthropists, people, human lovers, etc., etc. All that rhetoric is out there. So the Ladakh suddenly created all kinds of reasons. There's no real reason. If you look for reason, there will be nothing genuine. But there will be some statement, something. There are, of course, but this is the thing. There are NGOs who are receiving funds, and you are creating these youngsters into a kind of disturbing elements in the society, and all the stories of some leaders coming and giving some kind of calls for the people to do this, and they march towards maybe parliament or things like that. But in case of Ladakh, they marched towards the BJP office and attacked. I think he burned it down and etc. Now this thing went on, and suddenly it was arrested and stopped because this administration of Bharatiya governance can understand who is what, who does what, how, who, all these things people are capable of understanding, because it's not fools that you're sitting in the governance. They understand and they know how to react. For one simple example, for one instance, I'll tell you. Wherever there is Gen Z reactions, they're all governments in the past. You take Nepal or things, any it's a place. Whenever the army was given in charge, the army was very clearly asked to use rubber bullets and fire rubber bullets. That they fired rubber bullets. But then quite a number of people die in such shootouts, not with rubber bullets, and the bullets found in them are NATO sniper bullets, metal bullets. So the deep state, they'll create this situation. When the army takes rubber bullets and fires, the NATO snipers who are already posted in various parts of the riot prone area will really fire and kill people so that they can make news. So many died, this thing, that thing, and so on. So in a Bharat, whenever such thing happened, the government, the very sensible government, I'll tell you, and who are not fools because they stand, there is a history behind them. There's a history of knowledge tradition behind them. They're very rich people intellectually, wise people. They know who is trying to do what, and they know how to react to these people. So they have given strict orders not to fire. Use the old method of sticks. So they didn't get an opportunity to fire bullets into the crowd because Bharat didn't ask our army to fire rubber bullets. We have not used any kind of firearms, whether rubber or otherwise, or plastic, nothing like that. So they could not use their NATO guns, and there's a history of somebody who had about 1.5 lakhs of strength, something like a security agency. He employs former soldiers from different places, and he maintains a mercenary gang which is nothing short of a gunda, hooligans, troublemakers gangs who are paid well, who are aligned with jobs, and like a true soldier, these people are all retired soldiers. They'll go and you just fire. That's it. For them, whosoever is shown as the enemies of them by their employing agencies, they do that. But in case of our nation, Bharat, we do these things for our great inbuilt devotion to our motherland. That's a different story. There's a fundamental difference between a mercenary and a soldier who fights for his motherland. He treats his land as mother, which is not very understandable to people from a different cultural background. So this thing happened. This movement here again, And Ladakh, they tried to do it. The NGOs received funds, and the media did not show it very much because they say the inbuilt problem in Ladakh. It's projected that the Ladakh people are predominantly Buddhists, but that's not the case. 46% of Ladakh's population are Muslims. I think presumably the Shia Muslims, 46%. So a considerable amount of Muslim population is there, and they have a organization under the name of some Khamenei kind of things. There are these madrasa-based, mosque-based organizations who get funds. This is the point: who get funds, and they are behind, by and large. The Buddhists are very little, 32-38% only Buddhists, and the rest are Hindus and others, very few Christians also. So it's a Muslim domination. Who would be ever willing to speak going against a nation? Not all, certainly. A good amount of them will be willing always to go against a nation when they are paid and when they are injected with the Islamic fundamentalism. This doesn't work in Bharat much beyond a point. Only a very small fraction of the Muslim population in Bharat gives into this kind of things. Others will know where do they stand and who they are. So this Generation Z is made responsible, but our administration is wise enough who could just contain, and that doesn't mean that this thing will stop. These people are so foolish, they'll continue attempting such kind of things, and we have to be continuously be on a vigil, and we have to be careful. We have to be very careful about such kind of agencies, such kind of people approaching, and the youngsters. This age, according to 4 ashramas of Hindu Dharma, this is age when you prepare yourselves for a long life which should contribute to the society. Here, don't get astray, don't get misled. We shall meet again. Namaste. Jai Bharat, Jai Sri Ram.